Welcome back to the studio. My name's Kaylee and I paint wet on wet landscape oil paintings. Today I'm going to walk you through a black canvas special. I have a canvas that was prepped with a black gesso set to dry for 24 hours, and we're back here with it in the easel, and it's prepped with a very thin, even coat of liquid clear. We're going to jump right into it. Check the description below for all of the paints. To get us going, we're going to use the 2-inch brush and dip right into the Phthalo Green. Just tap that into the brush, get a good amount. We'll just apply that. I know it's going to be really hard to see on the camera. If you want to skip this part, you can just skip ahead to when we start applying the titanium white, but we need to get the whole canvas covered with a translucent paint. So we're using the Phthalo Green first, just starting off in kind of this section here. I thought we would just do a really cool limited palette painting. So we're just working with very few colors here. Let's go ahead and just throw a little bit of this down below. This is going to be our water section. And when you're painting this at home, you should be able to see the colors just a little bit better than you are on the camera. I can just barely see the hue of this. We are using a translucent paint, so it's not going to show up very well. It's supposed to be see-through, right? So it's going to be a little bit hard, but just give it a try. Now I'm going to use the Prussian Blue, just get a bunch of that on the brush. Remember, we're covering the canvas. This is what we call conditioning the canvas, getting it ready for the rest of the paint. And we're going to start in the corner and apply that in. This is a really dark color and also pretty translucent, so it's going to be really hard to see. So we'll just apply that in. You should be able to feel the consistency of that paint on your brush while you're working it into the canvas. If you have a lot of paint, it'll feel really sticky, and if it's thin, it should glide. So you just want to make sure that you feel it with the brush and just work with it. And if it doesn't work very well, you'll notice it when the painting starts to dry. You'll be able to tell, like, oh, I might have put too much paint, or I didn't have enough pigment on there. And you'll be able to fix it, or just learn from it for next time. I'm just picking up more Prussian Blue, and we'll work on this corner here. I've been thinking about painting this painting for maybe 3 or 4 weeks now. I kind of just had a dream about it again last night, and so I just really had to give it a go. Black canvases are kind of hard still because we're working on the opposite. So when we paint with oils, we have to have the dark to show the light, but now we're starting with the dark. So it's a little bit different, and it definitely kind of gets your brain moving, which I think is part of the fun for me, just to start thinking about it more. So I'm just picking up more Prussian Blue. That's all we're working with right now, is the Prussian Blue and Phthalo Green are the two colors. Working in on the corner, I really want this corner up here to be really dark. And now we need to work in some of that paint below. So today I'm actually painting an inspired by a photo scene. So we're actually looking at a photo and trying to catch some similarities. We don't want to paint the exact photo because the photo already exists, so we don't need to match that, but we want to look at the landscape and get the shape of the landscape to be similar, and also use it for colors and just to help guide you. So it's a kind of a fun way, if you have friends, they want you to paint something, just to get some practice by looking at a scene and just taking the pieces of it and putting it in a painting by yourself. and letting it come together on the canvas, I think is a really fun way to get to know your paints and how they interact with each other, and you can just practice. I'm just working with the Prussian Blue still, getting a little bit down on this lower bit of the canvas. Like I said, it's going to be really hard to see anything, so you can skip over to the next chapter will be the very beginning with the titanium white, so you can skip to chapter 2. The rest of the chapters might not sync up, but at least this one I did for you so that you'll be able to find it easily. Next, I am going to work my brush into this dark gray mixture. This mixture is that gray mixture that's in the description below, equal parts Alizarin Crimson and Phthalo Green. They make just a beautiful gray. Get a good bit of that on the brush. And we're going to apply this in the horizon area. I can feel that this is really sticky, so there's a good amount of that gray mixture applied onto the canvas. And now I want to pick up a little bit more, and we're going to work that into this lower corner here. We want this corner really dark, so we're going to start with this gray. We might add a little bit more Prussian Blue to it later, but it doesn't really matter so far. We just want to get the canvas covered and make sure that we have a very consistent amount of paint all the way across, and hopefully the colors will just work out for us. But this is kind of the fun part of the black canvas, is you can sort of see some of the colors that are different if you have a really, really good eye. Like, it's pretty hard even for me here. So anyway, give it a go, see how it works. Sometimes I'll get at like different angles on the canvas, and you can see some of the parts where it might need a little bit of work on the blending. I just want to move some of this gray up. I can see there's a really thick amount right here, and I'm just going to move some of it up into our sky area and just allow it to blend. And then I'm going to kind of work it down a little bit too. Now I'm going to pick up a blending brush. I just really want to make sure that it's all a very even consistency of paint. If you have a bunch globbed up, it just doesn't quite turn out the same way. So we're going to start in the same order, working in the Phthalo Green, blending this out, and then we'll just soften and blend the paints. I found a little bit of a dry spot, so now I'm going to work the paint in. And the only thing that'll happen if you don't have enough paint on the canvas for this part is when we put the titanium white on, you're just not going to get a bunch of pigments of the really rich colors that we have. It'll just dry a little bit more, maybe almost like pastel. It'll just be kind of subdued on the colors. So if that's the look that you want, then by all means you should do that. Now I'm just going to go all the way across and make sure, still have a pretty thick spot here. I really want to soften that out. Go all the way across. And I didn't quite cover this corner very well with my base coat, so I'm just going to apply a little bit more in here. Okay, blending brush again just to soften that out. Okay, we're going to pick up a fan brush. Any old fan brush will do. If you like the bigger ones, you can use those too. They're really fun. We're just going to go straight into the titanium white. Not too much paint. We don't want to get too crazy yet. Just start with a little bit of that. And I'm going to pick out the lightest part. This is going to be kind of, the sun is above coming down, but it's almost central. And the clouds are just catching a bit of light here. So we're just going to use the titanium white and the paint that we have on the canvas and just put in a few ideas of where the light is going to be hitting and kind of dancing around. And we're going to go back in and blend it and add more if we want to, but we need this titanium white to have it show up. So starting in our brightest area, we'll just dance the fan brush with the titanium white. That's all that's on the brush. And I'm just kind of dancing the brush around on the canvas. And then I want to use that same brush to get a nice bright area kind of close to the horizon here. So I'm picking up a little bit more titanium white. That's all I have on my brush. And I'm just blending it and wiggling it around to add a little bit of mistiness down kind of where our horizon line is going to be. I also want to add some color down in here. There's going to be a beautiful little reflection in some water down here. So we'll just add a little bit of white for that area as well. And maybe up to that. Just soften it down a little bit. I think I'll pick up my blending brush now, just wipe out a little bit of the excess paint that's in there. We don't want too much going on. And we'll just soften the sky. Just as much as you want it, and we'll come back in and do some more. Here we just want it nice and misty, so I'm just blending it pretty hard on the brush. I'm pushing really hard and just allowing that titanium white to mix with that gray mixture. There's some Prussian blue in there now. And we're just going to work up some of this lightness into the sky and just allow it to work in nice and softly. Down here, I'm going to pull this reflection down and straight across. I want to do a little bit more still, so same fan brush, just give it a little wipe off, kind of get some of that excess paint off, and then we'll just go right into the titanium white again. Try and get it to be nice and crisp for you. We don't want too much blue going on in there. Nice and crisp white. And we'll just pick out, I kind of just want a little bit more pop in here. So I'm going to add in a little bit more titanium white and pick out a few areas where there's probably going to be some clouds. And those will just stand out and pop a little bit brighter now. And just pick out a few more areas where there's going to be some light moving. It's just a fun bit of clouds kind of going on up in the sky. All kind of coming out, going down into the horizon and working their way towards the mountains. There's almost always clouds by the mountains. I mean, for most times of the year, there'll be something brewing at the base or kind of around them, behind them. And then I'm thinking I just want, we'll just do like some touches up here. Maybe a touch more out here. Just a little bit more light kind of playing around. I want this to look not like completely like it's nighttime. So we want these colors to blend on the canvas and just lighten it a little bit. So we want this titanium white to really work into the canvas, but not completely eliminate all the darkness. So we don't want to blend it too much, but just enough. So I'm starting in this bottom area. I want this to be a little softer, a little mistier, so we can start blending on the lower section and just kind of move up with it. Just blending out some of these spots on the bottom that I made. And I'm gonna just take the 2-inch brush and lay it flat and just wiggle these out and just pull it out and get some of that to blend, but not too much. We just want to soften it and make it look like they're these little wispy clouds are just kind of tossing in the wind way up high, and maybe they'll bring a little bit of weather with them, but they're just playing around and having a good time up here. Just wiggling and pulling the bottoms out, allowing them to really get some movement. And keep in mind that while you're painting this, it is going to dry just slightly darker. So if you're looking at it and you're like, I don't know, it's right on the edge, like maybe waver on the slightly more contrasted side, having a little bit more of the light, because it's going to dry just a little bit darker. At least that seems to be the experience that I typically have, which is actually one of my problems, because then I'll try and compensate and then I overcompensate. But anyway, that's my issue, not yours. We don't have problems or mistakes. We can always fix it. It just sometimes might take a little bit more time to kind of work through a little slip that you might have made, but it usually will end up working out. Now I'm just kind of going across and at the angle to pull out some of the significant brush strokes. I still want these clouds to kind of have this movement, but you can see here and there that there are a few brush strokes that we just don't need. So we're just going to very lightly kind of pull them out, give these a directional kind of tug. And for the background lightness of this sky, I think I'm going to leave it, maybe we'll do just a little up here, but we're going to largely just leave that because we're going to add some more kind of clouds in the like just in front of this lightness that we have in the sky. So we'll go right into the titanium white again. I did wipe off my brush. I'm gonna wipe it off a little more. I have too much blue, and just get a touch of the bright red. Maybe a little bit more. I want kind of like a grayish mixture. We don't want it to be too bright. But we'll just take this and I'm going to just punch it in and kind of dance out a cloud. Pick up a little bit more paint and I'll do just a couple more. Same really nice thick paint. I think we need just a few happening like right there. And then I'm going to get one more up here, and let's pop out a little bit of highlight just so we can make our mountain in front really pop. Just kind of pushing the brush into the canvas. This isn't really too much of a special technique. It is a very thick paint. That part is important. And I do use mostly the natural bristles. They do seem to work better even though you still lose some. But after you get through the first use, like maybe the first or the second use of the fan brush, you kind of lose some of the ones that were gonna go anyway. And then it gets a little better. I just cleaned off my blending brush and I'm using it now to kind of swirl up these clouds and give them a little bit of volume. Just blending a little bit more on the base than the top. You can go up into the top here and there and just soften it out if you want to, but I like to keep some of them really nice and bright because it looks a lot cooler that way. Just blending and swirling, trying to get it in like different directions. We'll move up into this cloud here. Maybe a little bit softer on the top actually for this one. I'm gonna clean out the brush and just blend this top one over here. Maybe move a little bit more. And I'm just tapping some of that excess paint out. I just still want some of this to lighten up a little bit more back here. So we're just using whatever is left over on the brush from our blending. Now I'm gonna wipe out the brush, get some of that excess paint out, because we just picked up a bunch of dark paint. And I'm just gonna pull these and flatten them out. Just kind of push them back. Now we will lift these bottom clouds. And go soft across. Just get out the brush strokes. Maybe fix up some of this. Get the brush strokes out. And up here, we'll just pull this cloud down a little bit and go across. All right, I want to do a little bit more, just some texture. I just am seeing this little, I picked up my fan brush and I went into this gray mixture, and I'm going to pick up a little bit more Alizarin Crimson, some titanium white, just kind of a nice dark gray. We'll just kind of get some of this going just back in here. Just to add a tiny bit of interest. That's enough. Wipe that out, get my blending brush out, and just soften it. Push it back way, way, way. The softer you make it, the further it'll go. Let's give that a little lift and blend out the brush strokes. Nice. All right, I'm going to use my blender and just really go at it on the base of these clouds. I really want to soften it and just blend it into a nice gradient, so that it'll save us a little bit of effort. Nice. Okay, let's get into this mountain. Oh, the dreams, they're coming true finally. Okay, I need a dark mixture, basically black, so I think we're just gonna stick with this gray, add some Prussian blue to it. Maybe I'll pick up a little more green and crimson just to mix up a little more, and just mix, get a good, all the way mixed through. And wipe off your knife. And we'll just pull off some paint. And we start with the mountain. So let me just pick out where it's going to be. Don't want to go in the center, so we'll pick out one of these points that we have. I think we'll put that one right here. Kind of comes down. Got another one. Just some idea. And we'll just bring this one down. This part can get really challenging because you might try really hard to make it super exact, but just get an idea. Try, if you are trying to paint an actual scene or a mountain range, then just do like a rough idea first, which is kind of what we're doing. So we're just putting in kind of a little sense of it, and then we can always come back and add more later and bring it up. So that's usually how I do it, is I start a little bit lower on some of these peaks, and then I'll move them up as I need to, as we get into the more specifics of the range itself. So we just want to make sure that we get an idea of it and, you know, relieve some of the pressure from making it exact, because nobody's going to be able to go, oh yeah, that's exactly wrong. That just doesn't really happen. Sometimes I'll have paintings that I just completely made up, and somebody will ask, oh, is that this range? And I'm like, I don't know. I've been all over the country, so I've seen a lot of different mountain ranges here. And sometimes I just paint something that's just from my mind, so it can be really anywhere. If you've made it this far into the painting, I hope that you subscribe to my channel so that you will always be alerted of all my other paintings. I do Tutorial Tuesday, and sometimes I'll throw in a wild card of an extra one throughout the week if I'm, you know, having a good week and feeling really inspired. So I really hope that you hit that subscribe and make sure that you will always be notified by signing up for all the notifications. And thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Especially if you're still watching right now, because you made it pretty far into this painting. So thank you for being here. Share it with your friends. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know how you like it in the comments below. I'm just adding in some paint into the bottom, just bringing it down a little bit. And I'm going to pick out one more big one here. Whoops, that was a little off on that. We'll do it here. Come down. That's okay. We'll just bring him a little bigger. And down. Then we got another one right here. I drew out a little sketch of this, but it didn't seem as big. Now this mountain, when I'm putting it on the canvas, seems so big. Okay, hopefully we can do it. Okay, this one we just kind of want to get a little bit. Okay. Let's leave that. I'm just going to pick up my blending brush and tap out the base. And get that dark paint to kind of blend and soften. I'm pushing really hard on the canvas. You should be able to hear that. Now let's just go across and get those brush strokes out, and then we'll lift up into the mountain and really soften it. Always moving the brush in the direction of the mountain. It's pretty steep and rugged out here. I think these were Iceland. Let's check. Yes, this is a mountain range in Iceland, so hopefully it will look real or real-ish, have some likeness to the area. Okay, let's finish with that. We're gonna mix up a highlight color and a shadow color. Let's just pick up all these blue grays and dirty titanium white onto the brush, and we'll mix up a blue mixture. It has Prussian blue, and now our mountain mixture in just a marbled color. And then we also want a dark version of this, so we'll just pick up some of that and mix a little bit more mountain mixture in it. And a highlight color, titanium white, just a tiny bit of mountain mixture, and some bright red. That was probably too much bright red, but let's go with it. All right, now that this sky has had a little bit of time to dry, I just want to soften out some of these areas still. So I'm just giving them a little bit of a swirl and allowing some of these titanium white areas to just really soften up more. Let's blend that out a little bit. These black canvases are really hard to film. It looks a lot different when I'm here than it does on the camera. So I hope you still give this a watch all the way through to the end and give it a paint, you know. Let me know what you think. It's a lot of fun for me to be here at least, so I hope you enjoy it. Okay, our light is coming from this top area. In fact, I think we should just add a little bit of titanium white just up here, just to accentuate a little bit of our brightness happening. I'm just kind of touching on some of the top areas. We'll get the brush, wipe it out, and just bring some of that light down. Up here, we soften it up. Just giving this a little bit of a tap out at the top, kind of softening it a little bit more. Okay, now we'll pick out the bits of the mountain that are really far away, and then we'll kind of move forward. So we'll start out on these edges and move in. And we'll pick up you could start with your highlight color or your shadow color first. I definitely change it up sometimes, so I think I'm just gonna go with the highlight color. I'm kind of nervous, I don't want to mess it up. So let's do this together. We have the light coming from the top, and I'm gonna pick out a few areas over here that are gonna be getting touched by the light. It looks like in the photo that there is a little bit of snow, but it has melted on the lower area. So we're just gonna work with the highlight color first and pick out the areas that are gonna be getting the most amount of light up on the top. And we'll just work down, making sure that some of the rock is still showing through. This one's kind of further back. Then we have maybe a little on this bit here. Now I want to come over onto this other side, and this is going to be like mostly in the shadows, but we'll still add just a tiny bit of highlight to it, and we can always soften it up later. Some of these angles are a little hard to hit. And we want this to come down. And then we've got kind of this bit here. And there's going to be a little bit of shadow there, but we'll get just a touch up here. I'm just barely touching the canvas. I really just want the paint on the brush or on the palette knife to pull off onto the canvas. So it's a little bit tricky. So we're working from the back forward so that we can layer the paint. So these mountains are kind of further away. Now let's start right up in here, and we'll touch on these because this bit of the mountain is going to be slightly more in front. So we've got them coming down nice and steep here. And then it kind of opens up a little bit at the bottom. And then we're gonna bring this big guy around. And you still have a little bit of paint on the palette knife. You can just use the paint on the knife and it'll grab the paint that's on the canvas and give it a pull. You know, it's really tricky, but I'm barely touching the canvas. I don't want any of the knife itself to be scraping the canvas because that's gonna leave marks on it. So it's very light touch here. Okay, now we'll move forward a little bit. Let's catch some of the highlights coming down on here. They're just kind of dancing along the top. Maybe they're coming over a little bit. Then we have just a touch of highlight here. Maybe it's coming down, and this one here. These steep, want these nice and steep here. Some of this up. And I'm gonna pick up my darker version of the shadow color. I want the really dark shadow color. And we'll start with that out here. We don't want to cover all of the dark. We just want to get some of it. So you kind of just do a little bit and then just pull off with the knife on the pressure so that you don't get too much paint. These are the really dark areas that are just picking up a little bit of the reflected light. Let's go over here. And then we've got this coming down here. Just give it a little bit of shape with that shadow color. It's just going to be getting some reflected light. So we're just moving that down. And right in this area, we want this all moving down. And then we have another one. I'm going to pick up a little bit of our brighter shadow color. It's just a little bit lighter than the other one, and move in a few more. Just getting some variety. There's kind of this little valley right there, and then it kind of just starts to just drop. So then we'll just put in some of these. Gosh, I keep hitting the bottom of my easel here with a knife. Hopefully that'll help a little bit. One downside to this so far, but other than that, I really like this easel. It's really nice. So I just have to adjust to the way I use the tools. Wow. Okay, I'm just adding, this is all the shadow color, and I just want to give some ideas of this being just super steep down here at the bottom. But it's not all snow. There's still some rock showing through here. And I'm going to use that same shadow color to work some of that down over here and just get some of the ideas of the shape that you want to pick out on the mountain so that you can just get it going for yourself. So we'll get some shadow color over here. There's a bit of snow. And then it kind of just run into that real steep runoff bottom part of the mountain. I'm going to pick up a little tiny bit of highlight color and pick out a few areas here with highlight. And then this kind of wraps around and shoots down. So it's going to pick up a little highlight on these front sides. A little more highlight down here. A little bit more highlight color. I'm going to get a little highlight. Let's just pick out this nice area up here and kind of bring some of these down a little. Some of these sides will pick up a little bit more light. All right, let's do some blending brush. Just tap very lightly at first in the same direction. Very, very light. Working in the direction of the slopes. Super, super barely touching. Just the tip of the brush is touching the canvas to soften all the way out here. Okay, get some of that paint off of the brush. No big deal. And we'll lift. You want to have pretty light touch when you're doing this because you don't want to mess up any of this top area, but you do want to still lighten and soften some of it. So the brush works pretty well. If you pick up some paint, just brush it off on the bottom. These slopes are super steep at the base, so I think it looks really cool. We'll see if we can pull it together. I'm gonna fix up this little weird area here. Don't know what's going on, but I'll take a step back and see. Let's do a little bit of a shadow color. Actually, that's not right. Let's do a highlight color here. Our highlight mountain color right along this edge, and bring that down just a little, and then we'll pull it out, get a little bit more, and bring some of them down just to kind of bring it together a little bit here. Need a little bit more highlight mixture right in this area. And the shadow back behind here. Pick out all of these and give them a little bit of shadow too, since I missed those. I'm jumping ahead, I'm so excited. Okay, make sure we didn't miss any other ones here. This one. Tiny bit of highlight mixture, and we just pull it down. I'm just barely touching, giving some of these a little extra pop. Highlight mixture. And some highlight right here. That's not quite bright enough. A little more titanium white and bright red. And just, oh, right here. Just pull out a little pop. Okay, I just stopped to have a little snack and we're back into it. I'm gonna pick up just a little bit of this mountain color. I wanna just add, I guess I just took a little bit too much of this dark away back here. Just wanna bring some more back in. So just dark, just pull a few little dark areas back in to these shadows. And maybe we'll just have to call that good enough. We have still more painting to paint. So I'm going to mist out the bottom of this again with my blending brush. This time I'm really gonna push down pretty hard and mist out the base. Pushing very hard, still in the direction that the mountain is going. We'll go across and just lift up and soften. Okay, let's leave that just the way it is. We can always do a little bit more later if we see, well, you know, there's always more that you can do. The first thing is I'm going to clean off my knife, and we're going to pick out this. We had a little bit of highlight area down here, so I'm going to throw some titanium white on my palette knife and kind of just pull out with that, with the knife, the titanium white for this reflection down here. Use your brush and just soften it a little bit. Next, there is going to be just a little bit of lightness at the base of this mountain range. So we're going to take let's take our dark shadow color. This is just our dark blue, and we're going to put in as straight of a line as we can down here at the bottom. And you can measure this if you want. I'm just using the knife and connecting the knife all the way across as flat as I can get it. Oop, got a little high there. And then the next thing that you can do once you get that all in, you can take your brush and just measure to see how close you are. So a little bit lower on this side. So we'll bring this up just a touch here. Let's measure it one more time. Let's try it this way. Why am I struggling so much with this? New toys, as much as they're fun, it does take an adjustment, so I'm still adjusting to my new easel. There, we're on the L for blender. And yeah, that's pretty close. So I'm gonna take the fan brush and just at the base of this, I'm going to soften it. Just pull out the bottom. Just keep it nice and flat. And right up in the center, we'll pick up some titanium white, nice and crisp like, and just tap a little bit of that crisp titanium white just right into the center, as if it's just popping some of that sunshine just right off of this area. There's going to be some over here as well. So let's make this side nice and bright. And I'm just dragging that titanium white, allowing it to pull off of the knife. And I'm going to soften just a little bit of that still. Just add a little bit of movement. Water is always moving. It's moving flat, but you can just wiggle it out and just make sure that you are moving in flat, kind of like a rocking stroke, but mostly just keeping it flat. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, got some water back here. There's going to be this big sandbar out in this area. So I want to make sure that I have enough light here so that it really pops and has that dark and light contrast. So I'm going to work more on this reflection area, and I'll just use the fan brush to pull out flat-ish areas. The water there's waves coming into the shore here, and the shore is really long and flat. So then the water comes all the way up and then is pulling back out and then leaves this beautiful reflection on the sand. And so that is what we're painting here. This is sand back here, and this is going to be our reflection in it. And then there's just a higher level of sand up here that we'll put in just a second. But we want to have this light in here first just to make it easier. So I'm just using my dirty fan brush and going into kind of this was just our highlight color for the mountains. It just has a tiny bit of bright red and titanium white, and now it's picking up all of these blues and phthalo green from our canvas. So we'll just add some more of this in. We'll say just to about there, maybe a little around in there. And let's pull it down, and we'll go across with our big brush. Then I want to use this brush. Now that we have it all going, let's just get an idea of where our shore, the rest of our wave kind of is coming in. You can do this later, or you can do it first. And sometimes when you lay out some of your painting, it'll help you with the rest of it. So that's what I'm doing today, because the black canvases tend to be so challenging. I thought we would just plan it out and throw on with our white some of our guidelines here. This is really thick paint, and I'm just trying to allow it to grab and work with the canvas. And then we'll kind of move some of it back a little bit. And let's pick out a couple more, just some little waves. Maybe moving in this area, looks like. Then I think there's gonna be one kind of right here. And we'll put one right here. And we want to just drag back, straight back. This thick white paint to get some water movement. And just kind of wiggle and jiggle that brush. Just let it move and just let this paint break off wherever it wants to. Okay, let's leave that. Put down the fan brush, pick up your blending brush. I'm just cleaning off the paint on my blending brush. I want it to be a little bit cleaner as I throw it into my paints. Nice job, Kaylee. Oh my goodness. I totally just threw it right into the Prussian Blue. That's so funny. Okay. I'm gonna wipe that off again. That would be wise. Wipe that off. And not throw it this time. Let's just blend out these, go across. Oof, look at that. That is nice. Soften, soften. And over here, nice and soft. Now we'll use this blending brush. I like to get kind of low, make sure I can see. And we're going to just pull back. Give it kind of a little movement, but we're mostly just pulling back these waves here. So we leave the light spot on the front of it and then blend out the back of it. So I'm putting this corner of the brush into this back section of the titanium white, and I'm pulling it straight back, as straight as you can. Let's do this one. And we're just moving back to front as best as you can to just pull some of that titanium white and get it to move and soften and blend with that translucent paint that we already have on the canvas. Just giving it some wiggles now. The motorbikes. Okay, nice and flat with the brush. Wiggling. Really want this part soft, soft back here. Soften. Okay, let's pull that back in just a little. We just want to go all the way over all of that. Now, I want to kind of pull out just a teensy bit. I'm going to get my 1-inch brush because it's just a little smaller and nimble for this area. And I'm just going to pull out just a touch on the bottom to kind of get a little bit of reflection back onto the sand here. Go across. Just barely. Maybe over here we'll do a little, just kind of wipe that out. All right, now we'll put in this little sandbar over here. Let's just mix up a nice dark color, kind of just like our mountain mixture. Prussian Blue, Phthalo Green, Alizarin Crimson. We're just working with a very limited palette today. Darks and lights. And we'll grab off some of that paint and we will just start filling this space in. It is just dark as dark can be over here. Black sand on a black beach, on a black canvas. It's very, very serene and beautiful. I hope you are enjoying this painting so far. It might be a nice challenge for you to practice with the knife. I love painting with the knife, and I didn't always like painting with the knife because it's kind of hard, and it really took me a lot of practice, and I still have days when it does not go very well. So just be a little graceful with yourself and give it a try, because I think you'll really enjoy the types of effects that you can get with a knife. It just takes more practice and a little bit more patience, because it's going to work differently depending on the texture of your paint. It's a really, really fun way to practice layering the oil paints and just to understand what sticks to what. The thin sticks to the thin, which sticks to the thin, which sticks to the thick, which it all just plays with each other. And if you wanted to layer it up and do different kinds of paintings, you are going to have to practice how these paints stack on top of each other and then how they dry when you do that. And the more that you do it, the better you'll get. So now I've put in some of this dark. I want to create just kind of a good land shape over here. So I'm going to move the brush towards the left, which is, as a right-handed person, that's usually the easiest way because you can get the paint to kind of slide off like butter. If you're left-handed, you might have to work this way and you'll push the knife just slightly different and have it spread like butter with your left. So as a right-hander, we'll just come in here and give it a nice little shape. And then we'll fill that in, going straight across, straight across. Picking up some more paint, and then let's move this down. I want to make sure that this dark comes right up to this highlight area. So we'll even bring this down a little bit more. So that we really will see that contrast between this dark and our reflected light down here. Bringing this down, we'll move kind of like that. And I'm just picking up more paint, and we'll just start dragging the paint and filling in that little space there that we just made. All the way across, very flat. Almost running out of paint now. Just pile it all up into one spot. I'm getting super crazy. And I'm going to see if I can get this palette knife to work with my easel here. I'm getting a little bit of conflicted touching here, but we're going to work with that. Let's see, nice and flat. And I'm gonna pull out this little corner here. Careful now, Kaylee, careful. Okay, nice and easy. Flat across, and we'll very carefully put this back in so I don't throw it on the ground. I like to throw things on the ground, just not my paintings. Okay, I think we will leave it like that. I'm going to pick up my little 1-inch brush that I was using. I just barely want to pull down just the tiniest little idea of a reflection into the reflection, right? This is land up here. It's slightly higher as the water is coming into the shore. So the water will have a reflective quality to it. So we want to put that in. Just pull. It's working a little better with this bigger brush here. Just go straight across after you pull it down. Oh my gosh, I'm getting way too out of craziness here. Let's wipe off the brush, because I picked up a lot, and then we'll go across, nice and flat. That was not flat, but we're just gonna move on. Let's pull that out here. Okay, now we're going to clean off the knife, pick up some of that blue mixture, the same one we were just using. It's bluish with titanium white, and we're going to put in our water line once more, straight across. Now, oh my goodness, I'm getting crazy over here. What is going on? Let me know in the comments below if you throw stuff in your studio, because I'm just having one of those days. Maybe I'm throwing everything, but if it happens to you, it happens to me. But if it doesn't happen to you and just happens to me, then maybe I'm the crazy one. But let me know how often you throw your tools, because I'm curious. I feel like some days I'm just really good and I don't drop anything, and then other days I'm like, oh my gosh, everything is going. Okay, and just pulling down some of that water line, and then we're going to pull it back out all the way across, nice and flat. And let's just come all the way up into there. All the way Very nice. Getting crazy there. Just soften that down. I want to take my fan brush and just build up one of these little kind of steamy bits here. We've got like a little bit of a wave, so I'm just gonna swirl and pick up my 1-inch brush and just soften. This is just gonna be kind of a little wave. I'm picking up just a little titanium white and we'll just throw a wave over, just a little one there. And let's just pick up one right over here as well. A little bit of a swirl, some foamy bits at the base. Blend it out. Right over here. I'm just pulling a flat little line and just letting it drop out, just a touch. We'll pick up some highlight and foam, push up, and just kind of bring that together. You can add a few water lines. These are just very, very far away, so we don't want to make it look too crazy. Here, a little bit of movement, picking up some more white on the brush and just tapping, getting some foam. And then we just pull out some of that on the bottom, just making all kinds of little movements and letting the brush kind of do what it wants. Something fun that I really like to do is also picking up the filbert brush and loading that full of our thick kind of blue-gray. We're just mixing into these blues and gray mixture. And we just allow this really thick paint to pull off on some of the high points of these foam bits here. Just give it some good movement. And just let some of that thick paint work around and have some high spots and some low spots. And then you can take your filbert brush and lay it flat and pull out a few little curls. Just giving you some ideas of where these little water lines are going to be. Focusing on having the light and dark right here. We just want to build up some of these light areas and pick out the highest points. Where the foam is just really dancing on top. Maybe we'll do a little bit out here. Just smaller out here. Just getting that thick paint wherever it is on your brush to pull off. We want this very, very thick, and we're always moving in very much the same direction. So I'm just tapping and allowing some of that thick paint to pull off on these top edges of the foam. And we're just gonna pick out some of those areas and put them in. We don't want to cover up all of the dark, so don't get too carried away. But also, if you don't have them, then you're kind of missing out. Because there definitely needs to be, I mean, unless you're doing like a super flat kind of bit coming in here, but there'll be a lot of high points and low points and foam and just a movement. Sometimes you can even do some wiggles like this. Do another one of like that. Kind of going flat across. And then you just soften some of it out. Now I want to pick up a little bit of bright red. The mixture we were working with is very much of like a blue tones. So we'll go into the bright red. Wow, that was way too much. Titanium white, some red. Now we've got like a little bit more of a brighter grayish, pinkish mixture. We just want to pick out a couple areas where this one is going to pop. Just pick out some really bright. I'm gonna wipe off, I have a little bit too much red in there. Get just a little bit more titanium white, kind of working with like a pink gray. And we'll just throw on some highlight areas. This is like gonna be the top of the top. Should be very bright, brighter than that blue mixture. It just has a little bit of a different tint to it. I think we just need to work in some more little bubbles and foams and gurgles and things just out here, just some variety. Trying to keep it flat, but also like giving it some movement and varying up that movement. So I just like to give it some like wiggles and then I'll move it down. And the filbert brush is also it's a natural bristle brush. So it has some very stiff fibers to it. And you can use that to have it pull out some of these water lines for you and just let it work with the dark and the light and play between those two. Okay, I'm just going to soften up these waves a little bit. We can just kind of pull some of that out. And just lighten up that curl over there. And behind this wave, there's going to be a little bit of a kind of a pull. Cool, there we go. Okay. I'm going to pick up my blending brush. Just soften, barely touching. Just soften it, barely. Oh my gosh, I can't emphasize how barely I'm touching it. You can hear it. Barely. Okay, leave it, just like that. I want to add in a few little rocks and like just these tiny little stones and pebbles. I'm just gonna pick up the filbert brush and just kind of pop in just a few kind of like little stones that are catching. This is black soil or black, sand out here. very unique to the area, but there's just, you know, if you like light gray rocks or something that, you know, are picking up some of the light from above, but they're really soft and there's water moving over it. So let's pull them down, push them out, just make them kind of disappear, just barely. And then I'm gonna take the fan brush, liquid white. Okay. Who screwed this on? It was me. I did it. I'm picking up liquid white on my fan brush, and then I'm going to put it onto the canvas here and just thin out the paint that is on my brush. I want it to be kind of like a little bit darker. Actually, darker than that. Okay, that maybe darker. That's good. Okay, let's work with that. Very, very loose paint, and just put in some more, just to flick off some tiny little sparkles. This be some sparkles in the sand. Ooh, yeah, that's cool. Just get a little bit in there and in here, and then over here, because it's water and it's going to be splashy, and it just adds some fun little detail that you think is like a detail, but it'll look like such a big thing, like you made such a big difference. When it dries, it looks super cool. Some splashes and some stones, little pebbles and reflective rocks. Maybe there's some sea glass out here reflecting the light. Oh my gosh, that'd be so cool. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. This is all a single sitting. Today is Friday, September 13th, and I'm recording this for you. I have a couple things coming up in the coming weeks, so I'm not sure when this is going to be posted. But I really hope you like it. I really hope you subscribe to my channel and help me grow my channel. I've had so much fun just being here with you all, so thank you so much. Okay, let's finish this up here. I want to add in just like a few more water lines over here. So I'm going to pick up my script liner and go into the liquid white, a good bit of the liquid white on the brush, and just go right into the same mixture we just put all these rocks on with, and get a lot of paint into the brush, fill it up with that thin paint. And we're just going to pick out some water lines and some squiggles in the sand that are going to be out here from this water moving. Maybe over here we've got a little bit, just some little water lines. Maybe some more over here. And now we want to pick up just like a slightly darker mixture on the script liner, just a tiny bit darker. And we'll just put in a few, just a tiny bit of a shadow for some of these. We just want to kind of make them stand out just a little bit more. Sounds like school just got out. The kids are out playing. Maybe just a few. Okay, so in the photo, this area is really, really dark, and I just am not liking it very much. So I'm gonna add just like a tiny pop. We'll go right into this titanium white mixture with the blues, and let's pick up some of our mountain mixture. Just kind of a tiny little touch. I wanna pick out just a few areas and just throw on a little tiny bit of color. It's just too blank, and this will dry really light, but it'll just give us a little bit of texture going on up here. And then right in the center, let's get a nice bright color right down here on the edge, just as if it's really reflecting off of this dark sand. There's just a tiny bit of moisture in it, just kind of reflecting it. Then we will use the brush just to very lightly just soften some of it. That's it. I'm going to step back and take a look at it from further away and just see what else I want to do to it. But I'm pretty tired, so we'll probably be done pretty soon. I think I need a few more water lines just right up here. I'm gonna go into kind of a lightish grayish mixture and just do a couple little lines out here. Just want some more watery look, just to give that idea that this water is just kind of moving and reflecting. I'm gonna use this also to kind of clean up some of these edges back here. These are really far away, so we're not really gonna see any of that, but just clean that up. And with the script liner, go into the titanium white, just get a little touch of that. Just saw this little part over here. I wanted to kind of soften. And you have thick paint on the brush, so it's going to grab some of that paint on the canvas and kind of pull it and move it. So I'm just using that. I still want to add a little bit, just bring some of this together so we have a nice sharp line kind of all the way across this edge. Nice thick paint. This is of our like bluish black or bluish gray. And I'm just pulling out just a teeny bit here, giving it kind of a rounded look at the bottom and pull it straight out. Now we need to clean off my script liner and go into our dark mixture with the script liner, as much dark as you can get. And just pull a few straight back on the bottom, just cleaning up the edge of your wave here just to kind of bring it together. It might not be super noticeable, but we're just cleaning up and pulling in a flat direction some of the base of the wave to give it more of like a pulled out look, that the wave is going backwards. See that? And I see, just want a little more over here. Just nice thick paint. Giving it a nice little curl. All right, I just had myself a little snack and I'm coming back. I'm just going to kind of do a few little touch-ups. These black canvases are really challenging to paint because with the liquid clear that we put on the canvas, and especially with all these recording lights, it doesn't help me, but at home too, it just is really shiny. And it takes time for the painting to dry, for the super shiny bits to kind of fade away, and it softens. So a lot of these areas will get darker as it dries, and you just have to hope that you set it up right. So anyway, right now I just want to soften up some more areas that after I've taken a few minutes and let it kind of dry. I mean, it's only been I think maybe 25 minutes that I went inside. I'm in my garage, so I just went into my house, had a snack, had some chips and salsa, it was delicious, and I allowed some of the paint to just dry a little bit. So some of the shine kind of fell off, and I'm just gonna clean up, which I just put this big old blob at some point. I pulled some mountain color. There we go. Just softening until we get it to where you want it. And some of these areas down here are just a little too strong on that reflection below. So I'm just going to soften it and just make it, just kind of add a little bit of mistiness. You can just pull that and pull it flat again. But maybe a little more over here. This is a lot further away, so these reflected areas aren't going to be quite as big. So we just want to soften it and just push that back and really give more of that illusion of depth going back here. Soften this horizon, just make it nice and soft, misty. And then for the water, you just pull that and bring it back down. You just kind of set it back down into the canvas. Nice. Maybe pull some of this. Soften. I just really want it to be nice and soft. Pick up the script liner and a little bit of liquid white and just get a little bit of that on the brush. Just going to add in a few more just a little bit of variety, and we'll just leave it at that. Clean off the script liner. And with your thin down, I'm going to use bright red and liquid white, and then a little bit of my brush wash. Give it a try. Definitely take some adjusting, but my lungs are a lot happier, and so is my throat. So with this bright red mixture, we'll just sign it, maybe not right. We'll go right over here. Just a small little signature today. Sometimes I get a little carried away, but that's my choice. I'm allowed to. And so are you. You can do whatever you want. It's your art. Whatever speaks to you is the right way. All right, first black canvas tutorial special. So give it a try. Use any translucent colors that you want. If you want to add more crimson in the sky, you can do that. I mean, go crazy and just try it out and see what you come up with. Today we worked with a limited palette, and I thought it was really fun to kind of challenge myself today, so I hope you give it a go. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Please subscribe to my channel, help me grow my channel so that I can keep giving you more videos like this and you know, just having fun. Thank you so much for being here with me. Smile and be happy, friends.